Okay, right. So this is chapter 4, the Kuru murder case. This is the sort of big dramatic chapter that if this were a film, this would be like the trailer moment. Okay, so it's 1 year later. There's this maid looking out of a window, and she's recounting this story where she witnessed a murder on the street below, and she recognised Hyde as the murderer, and he was there chatting to this rich gentleman, and they were getting on all nicely, and then out of nowhere he just batters him to death with this stick, and he starts hammering away at him on the floor. It's really violent, and she just faints, and it's really gruesome. Okay, so then what happened was there was a letter on this guy, and his name was Danvers Carew, Sir Danvers Carew. He was a kind of really posh, blonde sort of like politician. Think Boris Johnson, if it helps. Okay, so he had a letter on him addressed to Utterson, who his lawyer was. So the police ring Utterson because it's the only lead they have, and ironically Utterson is involved in this case, and he can't believe it when he hears that Hyde may have been the actual murderer. So he says, well, look, I know where Hyde lives. He gave me his address in Soho. Let's get round there. So they go round to Hyde's address in Soho, and they're expecting to see this complete dump because the street is horrible and you wouldn't want to hang out there at night. But when they go in this place, it's beautiful. It's described as, on the right there, it says furnished with luxury and good taste. So again, you've got a contrast. I mean, yeah, this duality. You've got this beautiful house with all this amazing stuff inside, in this complete and utter dump of a street that you just wouldn't hang out in. And then they find the actual murder weapon. They find the cane, and well, what's left of the cane, because the other half sort of ended up smashed up all over Kuru. And it's a gift actually that Utterson gave to Dr. Jekyll. So this is where it gets really interesting. Try and think of that as like the kind of end of the episode moment where everyone's like, as you realise that he actually owned the murder, that Jekyll owned the murder weapon, right? So this chapter really is about like duality of setting. So you see Stevenson uses all of this big description of the city as having a fog rolling over it. And he said the night was brilliantly lit by the full moon, which obviously has kind of gothic and vampire type, werewolf type connotations. And you've got this disgusting, horrible, murky, foggy city being described as we get into this sort of horrible like murder. And pathetic fallacy here, obviously, because this fog is going to hide things. It's going to like immerse the place in secrecy, and there's this like big hidden like world to discover. And then you'll see this description here of the violence being quite graphic. So you see the description at the time when this was written would have been really quite a lot for Victorian readers to take in, because it's like an ape-like fury. He tramples his victim underfoot, hailing down storms of blows. It's described as kind of like moving on the ground as he's kicking his head in, basically, and it really would have shocked Victorian readers. And this flame of anger that comes out of Hyde here, carrying on like a madman. He's meant to be sort of like described here as like an animal, kind of like attacking someone like a lion or an ape would attack. And that animalistic instinct links directly to that Darwin idea that we talked about before. Like he's almost subhuman. He's not really a man. He's kind of like an ape, like going at someone with these storm of blows. So the storm there again is it hints at the weather, and then that weather comes back later. That pathetic fallacy as Utterson's mind is described metaphorically as the fog being lifted from his head as he's trying to solve the case. So it's almost like the weather is like a representation of the case itself and the mood and the atmosphere. And that darkness described there at the bottom, this is the kind of when he realizes that this is going to get worse now. He fears for his mate's Jekyll's safety. That darkness is going to come over now and kind of like shroud everything in sin and mystery. Okay, so this chapter really is about violence and secrecy and duality, and it's the moment in the story really where we get a real handle over on what Hyde is capable of. And now he's a murderer of someone really famous. The police are after him. So it's not just the lawyer now trying to help out his mate. This is like a big criminal investigation now. So the stakes have got a lot higher. Okay?